Hello, Fish Faithful. This is Marlins Daily on the Fan Arch Network. I'm Kurt Semder. And the Marlins, once again, letting everyone down in Atlanta. Not good. Not good. 4-1 loss last night. There's not too much more you can say about this game other than the team managed just 3 hits and only had 1 up until the 8th inning. And that's just not going to get it done. It's the first 2 games here against the Braves have been a shining example of what you want to see from this offense just isn't coming to fruition. You take a look at this game last night, and Bryce Elder pitched really, really well. Only gave up the 1 hit to Jacob Marcy, and Yuri Perez was pretty good. He ran into trouble in the 2nd inning, just couldn't quite get that 3rd out. Gave up a couple of hits. He had 9 strikeouts in the game, but that elevated his pitch count, and he was only able to go 5 innings, which wasn't a big deal because the bullpen stepped up big and kept the Braves from doing anything. But when you take on a team like the Braves in their ballpark and you keep them to 4 runs in each of the first 2 games, you'd like to think that maybe you would have won one of those 2 games, or at the very least, you would have been more competitive in those 2 games. But it wasn't to be in either of these ones for the Marlins. And I think what it shows is that, in the National League right now, you've got, those tiers. You've got the Braves, the Brewers, the Dodgers, the division leaders, obviously. The Cubs, I think, are on that tier as well. And then you've got that second tier of those wild card contenders where I feel like the Marlins currently lie. And the gap between the two is pretty big. You could see it here. Like I said, on nights, the Braves put together double-digit hits, and they were able to, get key hits and key spots against Yuri Perez, and that's just what Miami was not able to do either night. In this game, they had a chance in the 8th inning. They got 2 of their 3 hits. They got 2 runners on. They had Kyle Stowers coming up, looking to, one swing of the bat ties this game up, and it's a whole new ball game. He doesn't get it done. Atlanta makes a pitching change, goes righty for righty against Otto Lopez. The All-Star, he can't get it done either. And they miss their opportunity and then go quietly in the 9th, dropping yet another game here. And the Marlins now falling to just a game over 500, failing to gain any ground in the wild card race. And, again, I'm not going to make a huge deal out of these 2 losses. These are games on the road against the division leader. They've won 7 in a row now. They're going to win their 70th game. If not tonight against Miami, they're going to do it this week. They are just a level above right now. And for Miami to then take that next step, they'll have to win these type of games. But right now, they just don't look ready. They just don't look quite ready for it. And one of the major issues that has come up because of all this has been the offense. And the offense, as we mentioned, just has really struggled. Just 3 runs in the first 2 games of this series. And we've talked about this on earlier episodes of the show where the Marlins lineup lacks that one guy or even 2 guys who you can kind of look at and say, they're going to pop a big home run for us. I know you're going to say, hey, what about the guy we just traded, Liam Hicks? He hit a grand slam for Tampa Bay in his first game. Yes, he was one of the guys who could do that, but he wasn't what you'd qualify as a big home run hitter either. And this team, relying on guys coming back from injury, relying on guys like, Kyle Stowers has been playing better in the second half, has gotten a little bit more pop. Would have loved to have seen him come through last night. It just didn't happen. Griffin Conine has come through in a pinch hit spot and in other situations this season with a big home run. You want to see a little bit more from Owen Casey, but you go through the box score from last night's game, and Kyle Stowers 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. Otto Lopez went 0 for 4. Griffin Conine 0 for 4, 2 strikeouts. Owen Casey 0 for 3 with a strikeout. Joe Mack went 0 for 2. His ground out was scored the only run in this game. And 3 hits isn't going to get it done against anyone, let alone the National League East leading Atlanta Braves. So this lineup relies very heavily this season on stringing together hits to have big innings. And sometimes it results in big comebacks like we saw, against the Phillies, or in big innings like we saw against the Mets. But other times it's frustrating because they'll get 2 hits in an inning and come away with nothing. The other issue here, and it's something that's plagued this team all season long, offensively anyway, is they just really struggle against left-handed pitching. And, with Elder on the mound, it was just another situation like that where they just couldn't find a way to break through. That's one of the reasons we were saying before the trade deadline, this team really would benefit from a big right-handed bat. And they didn't get it, and they don't have it on this team. They are very lefty heavy. You're relying a lot on Heriberto Hernandez and guys like that to come through. He went 0 for 4 as well in last night's game. They just don't have that righty pop, and I don't know where they're going to get it. And they may not be able to get it this season. So they're going to be looking at a game. They're going to need more than 3 hits in an inning to score runs most of the time, let alone 3 hits the entire game. So looking at this team going forward now, look, we talk about the starting pitching. We talk about the fact that they need to get Max Meyer back, that they need these other guys, the Tyler Phillips of the world, to continue giving them a good solid 5 innings. But if you're not going to get a lot of hits and you're not going to produce offensively, it's not going to matter. Because you look at Yuri Perez's line, and 9 strikeouts over 5 innings, just gave up the 4 runs. That shouldn't be a loss. But, it felt like after they scored 3 runs in the second inning, it was going to take a lot for Miami, especially against Bryce Elder, to get the job done and to get back in this game. And that's exactly what happened, because they were able to only get it to 4-1. And from there, nothing. So again, not going to make a huge deal out of the 2 games, but the offense has to get it clicking again. And they had it going against the Phillies and the Mets at home. The Phillies at home and then the Mets at New York. They're going to wrap up the road trip against Atlanta, and hopefully they can find a way to make things happen here. Today also, I wanted to chat with everybody about, we had a lot of comments on our last video, and I'm very happy to, see people, Marlins fans chiming in and getting involved. Thanks to everybody who's liked and subscribed all the videos, by the way. And we've got a couple of new subscribers too, which is great to see. We were talking about, do you think the Marlins are going to make the playoffs? What do you think of the deadline? And, we saw a couple of comments on the videos. I want to just go through a couple of them and talk about it. One of our comments on our last video came from Panavino28. He said, it's just one day later, but wow. Hicks hits a grand slam. Arise is hitting, driving in runs. Luzardo and Weather scoring scoreless innings. However, I like this current Marlins team. But replacing Hicks for Ramirez, it's just one game. And, I'll take it one by one. As we mentioned, Hicks hit a grand slam in the first game. And I think he was going to hit a home run one of these games there in Colorado. That's not to say he wouldn't have hit a home run somewhere else, because he's shown he can do that. And yes, it hurts when a guy you trade hits a grand slam the very next day. But he went hitless last night. So you get a little of both. Luis Arraez, I've mentioned, would have been a great addition for this team. I just didn't see them going that route, but I would have loved to have seen them bring him on the team. And, the Phillies have good pitching. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Their starting rotation is next level when they're really working on all cylinders. Now, again, that's looking at some of the moves now that they've made, but he mentions he likes this team right now. Hicks for Ramirez, I don't know if it's a straight 1-for-1 swap. Yes, Ramirez plays the same position, so it's easy to look at that way. But I think what it does is it really frees up the DH spot. And when you have a team like the Marlins who have so many players who can play so many different positions, it really gives Clayton McCullough a real opportunity to find the right guy for the right matchup that day against the right starting pitcher, righty-lefty, past history, that sort of thing. And McCullough has been very good with that sort of thing this season. We've seen that more than one occasion, when he taps someone like Griffin Conide in the right spot for a pinch hit and he responds with a home run, or he puts in the right defensive replacement, or he puts in the right guy at the right time to give them that big hit. He's very good with that part of it. Yes, I know that's the analytics that I say teams rely on too much, but there's a point where you should rely on analytics as well, and it helps you as a team and helps you be successful. So I don't think it's a Ramirez for Hicks 1-for-1 swap, and I think we have to give Ramirez more than 2 games. Same way we got to give Hicks more than 2 games to see how this all works out. And you mentioned that it's just 1 game. But thanks for the comment there, and we're going to see how Ramirez does going forward. Ramsey commented that I feel like 500 the rest of the way for this team. Hopefully get a wild card, but I feel like we just miss it. And I think that that's probably a fair take on how the season is going right now. We mentioned a couple of shows ago that 500 the rest of the way would put the Marlins right there in the win total area to get around 85 wins or so. Would that be enough to get them into the wild card? And the way things are looking with the way teams have been playing, it doesn't look like 85 may not be enough. So maybe they do just miss out on the playoffs. And maybe there was a move that you feel like they could have made at the deadline that would have gotten them a couple more wins and maybe gotten them into the postseason ultimately. But, this team does feel like they're on the cusp of playoff contention. And there are times like the last 2 days against the Braves where they feel like they are just not there yet. There are other days like when they sweep the Phillies where you say this team can get in and nobody was going to want to play them. So, it goes day by day. But I think that's a fair take, Ramsey. I think 500 the rest of the way. The way they played this season, they're only a game over 500 now. So we're not taking a giant leap there saying that they're going to go 500 the rest of the way. And hopefully they do get a wild card because it'll be a lot of fun to see the Marlins back in the postseason this year, that's for sure. Lastly, Jennifer, she commented, I think the Marlins are going to continue losing their fan base because everything they do is constantly for the future instead of going for it now. Only a game and a half out of the wild card race. The fans are tired of looking way out into the future instead of going for it now and every other year. Who knows, before next season, maybe some of our other, higher level players will be shipped out next season for future prospects. And that's the feeling, Jennifer, thank you for the comment. That's the feeling we were talking about in the trade deadline reaction. That feeling that this team is just good enough to make you pay attention and care, and then they're going to trade away their best players. And that's why I felt like this deadline was a change, because they didn't trade away their best players. They kept their best players. They did make moves with the future in mind, possibly a little bit more looking at the future than looking at this season. I'll give you that. But they didn't decimate the team for this season either. And they had done that in years past. Look, the fan base, we've mentioned, they've always been a difficult fan base to bring into the ballpark and to have them invest in the team for that reason. The fans are tired of the team constantly looking into the future. And at some point, I heard this point mentioned with a couple of other teams, but at some point you have to start playing for this season and not for the future. I don't think the Marlins are there yet, because I think they're still building this team up. And I think by keeping most of their key players this season, that was a step in that direction. But they still have a farm system they need to develop. They still have players that they need to possibly pay and possibly lose after this season that they're going to need to replace. But the fans, you want the fans to come out to the ballpark. You want the fans to watch the games. You want them to buy tickets. You want them to buy merchandise. You want them to get involved. You got to give them something. And the team has been good enough to give you something so far this season. And the front office didn't take it apart. But they also didn't give you a big reason to come out to the ballpark either. And I think that's fair. Now, the feeling of maybe before next season they'll trade even more players, and we don't even know if there's going to be a next season. I think we have to wait and see what breaks down with this lockout, what the reason is going to be with payroll, whether there's a salary floor, what the Marlins are going to have to do, because there's a good chance that when baseball returns, the Marlins are going to have to spend a certain amount of money. And if that's the case, then they have a surplus of young players who are coming up on arbitration, who are coming up on contracts, who they're going to have to pay. I don't think it's outrageous for the Marlins to be able to get to a salary floor. I just think it might be outrageous to ask them to spend much more than that. And when you say, okay, they're going to maybe have to pay a little bit more for Xavier Edwards. They may have to pay a little more for Otto Lopez. They may have to pay a little bit more for Yuri Perez, for the arbitration-eligible players. Well, then who else are they going to go? I don't see that big free agent signing with the Marlins yet. You know what I mean? But I think in a year they could get there, because if they show that they're building something and they show that they're not going to immediately tear it down, then they're sending the right message to the rest of the league. They're sending the right message to impending free agents. And most importantly, they're sending the right message to a fan base that, to be honest, wants to support this team. You know, there's a feeling a long time that there aren't Marlins fans. There are Marlins fans. They've just been burned too many times. And if you get burned too many times, you're not going to come back. And it takes a lot to bring you back. And I think Marlins fans want to come back and want to support this team. They're just afraid of getting hurt again. And, you know, Jennifer, again, thank you for the comment there. Again, they were just a game and a half out of the wild card at the deadline. Let's see what happens with those prospects. Let's see what happens with the trades that they made. Again, I don't think any of the trades they made crucially hurt them. If Liam Hicks goes on a ridiculous tear the second half of the season and somebody gets hurt on the Marlins, then we can have a different conversation. But right now, I don't think any of the deals really made a big change in their playoff chances, for good or for worse. So once again, everybody, thank you so much for the comments. I really appreciate it. I love going through it, and I love kind of talking with you about what you feel about the team right now, because, you know, your opinion is just as important, if not more important, than mine. So I love hearing it. I love talking with you about it. And as we sit here now, the Fish are looking to avoid a sweep tonight. Jensen Junk going to go to the mound, try to figure out a way to get through this Braves pitching staff with more than 3 hits, try to figure out a way to score more than 3 runs. I think it's asking a lot for Junk to keep this Braves lineup from scoring 3 or fewer runs. He's good, but I don't know. This Braves lineup is very good, so it might be asking a lot. So your offense is going to have to come through. And from there, the Marlins wrap up this road trip, and then they're going to get to come home. Games against the Angels, games against the Pirates. Again, playing against one team that sold on another team that built up for the trade deadline, one of the teams you're contending with for the wild card next week. So got some big games ahead. Got a chance to get things going here again, and you want to get things going. Avoid a 3-game losing streak. Don't get swept by the Braves. You can avoid it. And should be a good game tonight. And I expect the Marlins to respond to these first 2 games, and I expect them to come out and play well. So we'll see what happens in that one, and I'll be back with you here on Marlins Daily tomorrow to break it all down and look ahead to the return of the Fish to Miami and their upcoming homestand. That and much more. Once again, like, subscribe, comment. I want to see it. I want to hear it. We'll talk to you about it right here on the show. Thanks for being here, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow.